what gave you the courage to recognize, oh, this isn't working out? I need to be able to leave the marriage.
Okay, this is a bit of a pain point for me.
Oh.
Um, okay, I'll talk about it.
Woo! Welcome one, welcome all to your space for everything empowerment. I am your host, Tariq Williams. You are the listener. You're here to get empowered. We're going to have some fun today. Let me start off by saying this. The internet is an amazing place. Obviously, the internet can be cruel sometimes in a bunch of different ways, and social media can be this, that, and the third. But the internet is an amazing place because you're able to meet some amazing people doing amazing things in the world that you may have never met before. And so it's given me the opportunity connect with someone all the way from India, an amazing individual, language and communication coach, several different certifications as a coach in language. And it's just amazing to see her content on social media, truly making some significant change in the world. I'd like to introduce you all to my host, Swati Raghani.
Hi, thank you so much for this wonderful introduction. It makes me feel important. Thank you, Tariq. It's an absolute pleasure to share this stage per se with you. I think you're doing some great work. I've been through your podcast and I think it's beautiful, your perspective on things. I think there are times, and very rarely that happens, but there are times when someone comes into your life and changes your perspective on things and you start living differently. I would definitely say you're one of those people. So kudos to you.
Wow. I wasn't prepared for that introduction. I have to, listeners, I promise you, I did not tell her to say that. Uh, but no, thank you so much. That's the goal here. And ultimately, perspective is everything, right? No matter what it is you're going through or what happens, if you can have perspective on it and find a way to look at it that can empower you, um, life can throw a lot of different things at you. And that's definitely the goal of the podcast. And why I wanted to have you on, because I saw your content and I just thought it was so amazing. I have no idea how you ended up on my feed. But one day you were there and I was like, wow, this is some great work that's happening here in terms of talking about the connections and coaching. And so we're going to get into exactly what it is that you do. But first, I want to ask you, obviously, we're blending in here the differences between language and communication and where they connect. So, in one word, can you explain the difference between language and communication?
Okay. What I would do is answer this question slightly differently.
Okay.
I will give you one word for language and one word for communication.
Okay.
So, as I like to say it, language is the means, communication is the end. So, language is the means to an end, which is actually to communicate something. Now, I'll give you an example.
Please.
We know the words, all right? It's English. Let's just take English as an example. We know the words, but
Mm.
if we can't put those words in the right kind of sentence to give the right kind of message, there's no point to that language. There's no point to knowing those words.
Hmm.
Also, if you've noticed, in the English language, we tend to stress on certain words while we're speaking. And that's what tells us the meaning of that sentence.
Mm.
I'll give you an example.
Hmm.
Um, I love going, I love going to school. Now, one way, if I say it, I love going to school.
Mm.
I love going to school. That
Mm.
changes.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'm talking about me. I love going to school. And there it's about school.
Yeah.
It's the same words.
Yeah.
But that's where communication comes in.
Okay, I love this. I love this. So, because it depends on where you put your emphasis, right, in terms of how you communicate certain things for language. And I think the world these days sometimes struggles with communication and sometimes people get misconstrued and misinterpreted. But before we really dive into that area, explain to me what exactly it is that you do for our audience. And let's break that down a little bit,
Sure. Let me tell you how it all began.
please.
I think I was 7 or 8 years old when I started reading a lot. So this was kind of like my escape from reality.
Okay.
Reality wasn't great at that time. I wouldn't get into that. But reading books just kind of kept me going because there was this hope, to find a Prince Charming maybe, or to find an adventure maybe. I don't know what it was, but it just kind of kept me going.
Mhm.
Then came a point where I started writing my feelings down. I was never a good speaker. Let me mention that. I was the worst speaker there can
Mm.
be. Okay. There were times when I would go up on stage in front of people, like, my school would send me for these debates and public speaking kind of events.
And real
There,
quick,
ha-
this is in India, correct?
yes, 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 all
Okay.
in India. Yeah.
Okay.
So I used to go up on stage and freeze. I would look at people in front of me and just freeze. So I was the worst when it came to that. But when it came to writing,
Mm.
no one could beat me. Okay. I would write those feelings down, man. And I loved it. Okay. I loved writing stuff down. I would see something and I would make a whole story about it. I
Mm.
loved it. So it went from reading to writing and then slowly to speaking.
Mm.
How I started reading out the stuff that I had written. So if I were going up on stage, I would write a kick-ass piece and just read it out. And
Mm.
then came the part where I started practicing in front of the mirror, speaking in front of people, making a mess of myself. And
Mm.
then finally, there was a point where I could go up on stage without a script and just do it. So, the reason why I first started teaching English
Yeah,
and
maybe.
then I got into communication.
Mhm.
Now, English as a second language, ESL,
Yeah.
that's what I was into. So,
Okay.
I started teaching ESL. I was teaching people from all around the globe.
Wow.
And then I got into communication. Now, the reason why I selected communication as a separate thing is simply because I figured, okay, I'll tell you. So there was this time when I was sitting with myself and thinking, where do I see myself maybe 10 years from now? Do I want to teach English for the rest of my life? And there was a big no. No,
Okay.
no,
Okay.
that's not what I see myself doing for the rest of my life. And then I thought, no, there's something bigger than that. I want people to learn how to communicate. I don't want
Mm.
people to learn how to speak. I
Mm.
want them to learn how to communicate because
Mm.
that is where the entire world revolves around communication.
Mm.
How do you pass your message across? How do you get your message across?
Real
That
quick, you're so right about that because whenever people are talking about, oh, what's the issue at our company? What's the issue at our business? What's the issue with my relationship?
right.
11 times out of 10, it's typically communication.
Right. That is true. That's extremely true. That's where the whole communication aspect came in. And then I got into corporate communication majorly. So that's what I do now.
Okay, so you talk about what you're doing now, but you're speaking with this passion. Did you always, so you mentioned this passion came from reading and how the passion developed. Um, I guess let's talk a little bit about this word passion here for a moment. When someone asks you, "Oh, you have such a passion for this. Why do you have this passion for it?" I understand where it came from, but why do you have this passion? Why is it so important to you?
Okay, this is a slightly difficult question to answer for me. I'll tell you. where it came from. So I was in a marriage for 8 years.
Mm,
Now, the biggest issue, like most other couples, the biggest problem, the biggest obstacle in our relationship was the lack of communication.
mm,
And I didn't even know that there was a term for it. Okay, it was just a point where we stopped talking to each other, living under the same roof. We just stopped talking. There was nothing. And that's where I kind of started talking to people about this. And they told me that this is normal. The kind of reaction I got from most couples is this is normal. You guys have been married for like 8 years now. So not talking to each other is something very normal.
mm,
And it got me thinking, how is that normal?
mm.
How? How are you labeling it as normal?
Yeah.
That's where the whole concept of communication came in because I did a lot of research at that time on how to save my relationship.
Wow. Okay.
That's how it all started. I did my research, I saw what was going on, and I kind of understood, although I couldn't save that relationship. I mean, good riddance, I would say. I'm
Oh,
happy.
okay.
Okay, don't look at me with sympathy. I get this kind of look from people. I'm like, no, no, I'm happy. I'm good. Don't sympathize.
Okay.
But yeah, that's where it all started. And today, if I'm doing this to save relationships, to make sure that people are actually happy
Mm.
wherever they may be, in a corporate setup, in a relationship, in a marriage, in a household where you're living with your parents, your kids. This is what I do it for, to save relationships, to save jobs. That's my end goal.
That's incredible. And I appreciate you opening up with us there. But I want to say this, and you said that you were working on attempting to save your marriage and being able to figure out how to build up this communication. What gave you the courage to recognize, oh, this isn't working out? I need to be able to set a boundary and be able to leave the marriage, right? Like, how did that happen, and how did you have the confidence to do so?
Okay, this is a bit of a pain point for me.
Oh,
Um, okay, I'll talk about it. So, of course, I was trying. I was trying hard. I was doing everything I possibly could simply because there was a child involved. Frankly, I had no feelings left. It was only because I have a 5-year-old. Now she's 6, but at that time she was 5. And the only reason why I kept trying, went against all odds and just kept trying was to be able to give her the love of a father. That's it. That was the only reason. Now, there was a point where I started feeling that no matter how much I gave in, um, it was all kind of backfiring on me because the more I bent, the more pressure I was being put under.
wow.
So when you keep bending over for someone and you feel that instead of appreciating that fact and it's like you're standing straight, you bend, you bend, you bend, and you go to a point where you're literally uncomfortable in that position. And that's when your partner comes and puts more pressure on you.
Wow.
So
Well,
if your partner is doing that, stop, because
yeah,
that is where you need to stop.
yeah.
And that's, yes,
I was gonna say, well, let's be real here for a moment. Someone can only bend so much until they break, right? Like,
that's true.
let's be honest here. And so when you're in a relationship, when you're in a partnership, I'm not, I don't think either of us are gonna sit here and tell the audience, oh, your relationship should be perfect because that's unrealistic. However, I think it's a partnership. It's not a collaboration, right? We should be in this together. Like we can collab and da da da. No, this is a partnership. Like we the other person's good needs to be a priority.
Right. Absolutely. 100%. I really feel today, I'll tell you something. It's been about a year and a half since I have come out of that house. I am now living with my parents. My daughter is a lot happier than I've ever seen her. My parents are a lot happier than I've ever seen them. I am a lot happier than I have ever been. So today, wherever I'm at, literally, I'm at a point in my life where if a genie comes in front of me and says, "You have three wishes," I'll say, "You know what? I know other people who can use those wishes better."
Wow.
I'm literally there now, and I love it. I love every bit of where I'm at. So, yes, whatever happened,
Wait,
happened.
I'm sorry. I have to stop you. I I haven't had many moments on this podcast where someone has had me speechless. This moment's on the list. That is
I'm glad.
I have to say, like, that is so powerful. Because you have to understand, humans just in general, right? Are typically like trying to find ways to like, what it looks like to benefit. The
Yeah.
fact that you can sit here after only just a year and a half and talk about if someone came and gave you three wishes, oh no, it's fine. Somebody could use this more. One, it speaks to your growth as an individual and how you've empowered yourself. But two, the impact that you are making on this world through your content and just the person that you are and what you're doing and what you're going to continue doing. So I want to stand up. Like that's amazing. Like I think there's a lot that everybody could learn from just that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
but
yeah, please go
I
ahead.
I really believe that even at the time when I was suffering, when I was at my worst, when I was going through all of that mental, emotional, physical trauma,
Hmm.
even at that time, because you live in this kind of there are four walls, and that's all you see.
Hmm.
When you live in that sort of a world where all you see are those four walls, you start believing that that is the reality of your life. You start believing that this is the end of it. But
Hmm.
you must know, each and every one of us must know that those four walls cannot be the end of your life.
Hmm.
So the day you actually think of, putting a rope over that well and just climbing up, it'll take effort. But
Yeah.
you have to decide to do that.
Yeah. Absolutely. One of my favorite quotes, we talk about on the podcast quite often. Potential is only unachieved greatness. You can have all the potential in the world, but if you don't fight for it, if you don't go after it, if you don't go make it happen, you'll be stuck in
Yeah.
those four walls, like you just said.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
100%. So, when did this all start?
About 4 or 5 years ago,
Okay.
it started, and the way it started was I went to a career counselor to get some counseling about my own career. And
Hmm.
I was at a space in my life where I thought no one would pay me for anything.
Hmm.
I actually felt that I am unskilled. I haven't picked up a book in forever. I haven't done any kind of work in forever.
Can,
So
can,
why would
can I can I
someone
pause you for a second? I'm sorry. Because
absolutely?
you mentioned you hadn't picked up a book in forever,
Uh-huh.
but you had a love for reading.
I did.
So,
But after my child came, after she was born, I could not find time to do anything,
okay. Okay.
literally anything, because I had no help. I had
Mm,
nothing. In fact, I had a lot more responsibilities with the family, taking care of my in-laws, my husband, all of that. So there was a lot more involved there, and I could not do anything.
okay.
So, that was the point in my life where I had started hating my body. I had started hating myself because every time I would cross a mirror, I would just see this person who is extremely big, losing hair that way. Like literally, I would do that and I would have clumps of hair in my hand. I
Mm,
was malnourished and it was the worst. Health wise, I was at the worst place I could have ever been. I had
oh,
spinal cord issues, I had back issues. So, yeah, it was bad. Now, at that point, Even getting 2 hours of sleep, uninterrupted sleep, was a luxury for me. And that
Wow.
went on for about 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is the reason why I say this, that I hadn't picked up a book in forever. And
Hmm.
there were a lot of things that I felt. Also, there was this constant thing where people around you are saying that you're good for nothing. You can't do this. Who's going to pay you for it? Who's going to do that? Who's going to do this? So that constantly kind of embeds into your head. And that's what I started believing. So I went to this career counselor and I showed her my degrees and I told her, okay, I know it's been more than a decade since I got them, but they've got to be worth something.
Yeah, yeah,
And she looks at me and she's like, "You really think no one would pay you? What the hell makes you think that?"
yeah,
And
yeah.
she was the one who actually pushed me. I took a psychometric test. And for those who don't know, it's a psychological test that career counselors give you. You take the test and it shows you your true potential, and it guides you in which field you would be able to excel, because that kind of bases it off of your the way you are as a person, your personality, your character, all of that.
Hmm.
So that's where the whole communication thing popped up. And at that
Okay.
point in my life, I could not even speak well. I literally called up my career counselor, like, "Are you crazy?" So yes, that's where it all started. And
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
No, yeah, how it all started, right? And
Yeah,
I want to focus on a few of the things because when you talk about being around people who are like, "Are you joking? People are actually going to pay you for this," and other people are saying it, you start to believe it. Let's call that what it actually is, but let's call it out. It's a limiting belief, right? And I think maybe you didn't know that at the time because you believed that it was true.
yeah,
Just like, with my blindness, right? Like I truly believed there were things that I just could no longer do anymore. Like I
right.
thought that was the barometer of what I could do, being able to see. And I joke and I say, I never walked up to someone before in my life and said, "Hey, my name is Tariq." Like when I could see, "Hey, my name is Tariq Williams. I have 20/20 vision." I never did that. So why, so why would I walk up to someone now and be like, "Oh, hey, like my blindness defines me," right? Like whatever characteristic defines me. I understand that I have things that have shaped my personality, and so our obstacles can shape us and make us better and make us stronger if we let them. And I
Right,
like how you, with your story, you're learning more about yourself, you're taking control of your situation and seeing what next could look like for you. So this started 5 years ago. Um,
right.
so then now, um, so it started 5 years ago. Now, so tell me a bit about your coaching, your courses, and how long you've been in business for.
I did a TEFL certification online,
Okay.
which is a TEFL, which stands for Teaching English as a Foreign Language.
Okay.
This was a certification I required to get into these platforms. See, I had no option but to work from home at that point. And that too, I had to hide in a room and work.
When
No
and
one
what
could.
when was this?
This was when I was in the marriage.
Got it.
Yes, this was about 4 years ago, I
Okay.
guess. Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago. So what happened was I had to study for that certification. Took me about 3 months. I found out about it online and I thought, okay, let's just do this. Another reason why I did this was these platforms that pay you, these platforms that are international. So I'm talking about Preply, Cambly, those kind of platforms where you
Hmm.
can register as a tutor, and then people from all around the world can register as students, and then they connect with you. So that's what it is. Now, to be able to become a part of that, you needed that certification.
Okay.
That is the only reason why I did it. Now, I saved up the money for it. First thing, I saved up the money for it. Second was I paid for it and I started. Now, I could not let anyone know that I was doing this.
Wow.
So at night, when my daughter would go off to sleep, I would light the night light would be on, my laptop would be on, and I would take notes in that dim light in the laptop light, and I would study till about if if she would doze off around, let's say, 10 p.m., I would study till 3 a.m. I would do that because I had to finish this as soon as possible. I just had to start earning. So I would study till 3 a.m., get done with it, sleep, again, wake up at 6 a.m. and send her to school. So that's how 3 months of my life were on 3 hours of sleep.
You, you know, I talk a lot about goals on the podcast, okay? I talk a lot about goals, and ultimately, if you have a dream, you have to have goals. If
Absolutely.
if you have a dream and no goals, do you know what you're doing, Swati? Do you know what you're doing if you have a dream and no goals?
You're just dreaming, you're just fantasizing things.
You're asleep.
It's
You're asleep.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
are asleep. Okay. If you are
That's
dreaming and you have these dreams of getting this English certification and being able to teach people around the world,
Yeah.
but you're not setting goals for yourself and you don't have expectations for yourself and ultimately leading to those high goals to do the thing that you want to do, harsh reality, harsh truth, you don't really want the thing. It's just not going to be realistic. And so I'm listening to you talk about this, and it
Yeah.
sounds wild. But you really
It,
wanted this for yourself. You really wanted
I
it. So you put in the work.
Yes, I did. And I'll tell you another thing here. I feel as long as you're in your comfort zone, as long as you're not being pushed, you will not leave that space. You will not work hard. Because you know what? Why should I do it? So there has to be a point in your life when you hit rock bottom and you have all kinds of crap going on around you. And that's where you actually feel that, okay, you know what? I've had enough. I can't do this anymore.
Mm.
I actually feel that all success stories that I've heard till date are majorly after a person has hit a space where they feel that, okay, I just can't live here anymore. I can't do this anymore. So, yes, unless you are shoved out of your comfort zone, unless if you believe that, okay, I'm not a morning person, I can't wake up at 6 a.m., bloody hell, just do it. Do it for
I'm sorry.
Wake up at 6, take a cold shower, just
Yeah.
do it. Just
Yeah.
for the heck of it.
Yeah.
Challenge yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why not?
I there's a podcast episode from a while ago now. Gosh, I don't remember when it came out, but several months ago now, there was a podcast episode,
Mhm.
and it's called You're a Loser. All right. And basically, um it's a story about, so I was talking to some of my friends, okay? We were all in like a group conversation on FaceTime, all right? And one of my friends was talking, I think he was having some rough things going on. And he said to us, I'm a loser, Tariq, or hey, Tariq, like I'm a loser. And I said, come on, man, what are you talking about? He said, I'm a loser. And I said, no, you're not. And then he said to me, yes, I am. I'm a loser. And then I said, what do you mean? It's like the people I'm around tell me that I'm a loser. And, the things in my life just keep on telling me that I'm a loser. And I said to him again, no, you're not. And he said, yes, I am. Okay. At this point in time, I'm getting frustrated. I'm the wrong one. But I said to him, I had took a step back and I took a deep breath and I was like, you're right. And he was like, Tariq, what? Because he didn't expect me to say, I said, you're absolutely right. And he said, what do you mean? And I told him straight up, I said, listen, if you believe that you're a loser, that's what you are. You are what you believe. And you're going to do things that truly encompass that. Like, if that's what you believe, that's what you're going to do. I'm a big believer in life, like whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, either way, you're going to be right. So, you talking about your story, Swati, and thinking about like, oh, I want to do this. So I know that I can do it. So I'm going to do whatever it is I got to do to go do it. It's the flip side of that, right? It's like, if you believe that you're a loser, you're probably going to do, and this is harsh reality. I'm sorry. Like, it's a little bit mean, but if you think that you're a loser, you might hang out with people. It might be, it's just a different mindset, right? Whereas if you think that you're a business owner, you're going to do things that business owners do and you're going to make it happen. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I absolutely agree. Like I told you, there was a point in my life that I felt like a loser. I was
Mm.
100% convinced that I am good for nothing. And today, most of the people I deal with, most of my students, they believe that when they come to me.
Okay,
The,
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
the first thing that they'll come to me and say is, Swati, I lack confidence. It's so basic. Okay. It's so basic. I have to talk about this. It is so basic. You come to me, okay, and you tell me that, okay, I don't have the confidence. All right. So my first question to you is, all right, what is that one thing that if I give you that one thing, you will start feeling confident? What would that thing be? And they say good communication skills. I'm like, what is your definition of good communication skills? How do you
Mm.
define that? Because it's different for different people,
Hmm.
right? For most people, there's a very big misconception here. By communication skills, I mean vocabulary, fluency, English, good phrases. I want to be able to sound fancy. Excuse me. That is not good communication skills. Okay, please understand this. Okay, I have to put this out there. You have to understand that just by sound, and I'll tell you something. I don't know about the rest of the world, but in my country at this moment, people are going crazy about this thing where it's like, I need to speak fancy.
Mm.
You do not need to speak fancy. Okay, there is no point if you speak fancy and 10 other people do not understand a word you're saying. No, able to speak, period.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's where I struggle. So when great, it generates an income for me. People call me up and tell me, we need your classes. I'm like, okay, but you have to understand that there's a difference between enhanced vocabulary and communication.
Sure,
You
absolutely.
join my communication course, don't expect me. Yes, I will be dealing with vocabulary, but don't expect me to go into advanced level vocabulary in that course.
Yeah.
So, that's the thing. And also, there's one thing that I want to mention here. When we
Please.
talk about communication, the most important form of communication is how do you talk to yourself?
Woo! Let's go. Come on now.
Yes, yes, I have to say this because that's where it all begins. That is just where it all begins. People may say a million things to you, Tariq. I don't know if you felt this in your life. I'm sure you must have. But people may say, today, if I come and tell you, uh, Tariq, I hate the kind of girl you are,
Mm.
would that matter to you? No, because you're not a girl and you know that.
Mm.
You would just laugh it off. You'd be like,
Yeah.
what? What did you just say?
I was confused. I'll be honest.
Because it doesn't mean a thing.
Yeah.
It is we who put the meaning in the sentences, in the words that people say to us. We are the ones who do that. They don't do it. They don't have the power to do it.
Come on now. Come on now. They only have the power if you give it to them.
Exactly.
They only have the
Exactly.
power if you give it to
Relinquish
them.
your power.
Whew. So, okay, I have to rewind. I have to rewind. I have to go back. Okay. I'm going all the way back toward the beginning of where we started here. You said something about how, like my friend in the story I said earlier, you also thought that you were a loser. Okay.
Right.
You you've talked about your clients and them feeling having those limiting beliefs as well. How does someone go, okay? Because if I wasn't having this conversation right with you right now, if you listener wasn't listening to the podcast right now, this would sound far-fetched. But the difference between fiction and nonfiction is that fiction actually has to make sense. So the thing is, with this nonfiction world, just being honest with you, Swati, the thing is, what you're saying, how you went from A to Z for your story. Actually, I'm not gonna say how you went from A to B, how you were able to get to where you were to where you are now. It just feels like, how did we get here? So the question that I have for you, how does someone go from feeling powerless to powerful?
You know what? It can take a second, or it can take 10 years, or it can take 100 years. It can literally be an overnight revelation. It can happen in 5 minutes. You read something inspiring and you start thinking. You have a good conversation with someone and it gets you thinking. It can be anything. It can be anything. Okay. You just need that one trigger. And that one trigger will get you places that you couldn't even imagine. So, but you don't have to wait for that trigger. You don't have to
Mm,
wait for something external to happen. You have to sit with yourself and introspect. And by introspect, I don't mean go into this rabbit hole of what am I not doing right? No. You need to understand and speak to yourself using the right words. What am I doing right? How can I make it better? What am I doing right? What is my strength? What is my USP? What is it? What is my unique selling point? What is that one thing? What is that one thing that I can do that no one else can? And
mm.
believe me, there is something. Believe me, there is something.
Okay, but how do you find that, right? How do you find that when the world is telling you you can't do that, when you're telling yourself it's impossible and you're struggling to get out of bed because you're in a partnership that you're not being served properly and your happiness and your personality is being taken away from you? How do you find that?
There is one thing I would say because the world has become so tiny now.
Hmm.
And by tiny, I mean because of technology, we're also connected. Like you said in the beginning, today, you and I are having a conversation.
It's wild.
I, it's a lot easier today to find a mentor than it was maybe a couple of years back, maybe a couple of decades back. Find a mentor. You have a world in your palms. Okay. You literally have the globe in your hands. Make the right use of it.
Yeah.
You may not be surrounded by the right people, but it's on you to find the right people. And you don't even have to pay for this shit. Okay. You don't even have to pay for it. These days, you find therapy for free,
Yeah.
but you have to find the right person. I would definitely say that you need the right guidance. If you're right at the bottom, you need someone to pull you out, the right person to pull you out.
Yeah.
Find that right person.
I'm with you 100%. But I think sometimes, and I don't want to get too much in the weeds with paying a mentor, paying a coach, or anything like that. I don't want to get too much in the weeds for that. But
Yeah.
what I will say to that is there's something to be said for investing in yourself. Um,
Right.
you talked about before how you talk to yourself. Okay,
Mhm.
great. So you've started to talk to yourself a little bit now. We are moving forward. You're starting to talk to yourself in a way. You're starting to commit to the person who you are. You're starting to commit to your happiness. Okay, but what does that mean to actually put it into action? And so, in my opinion, when it comes to bringing this full circle a bit here, and we're talking about talking to yourself in a way that's respectful, getting those limiting beliefs out of here, and we're committing to the person who we are, our authentic version of ourselves, and being unapologetically ourselves. What's
Right.
next? How do we get to the next level? I think there does come a point where you have to invest time, you got to invest energy, and might even be money in some cases, and whatever that looks like. But I think it's really important to invest in you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel, yes, that is just the beginning. That's just the first step
Yeah.
where you start talking to yourself the right way.
Yeah.
That is simply just the first step. But it is extremely important to conquer that step before you move forward. You cannot move forward unless you have that step taken care of. That's one. Second, you have to invest in yourself. And, there are so many courses these days that are free of cost. So you don't really have to spend big bucks or just find someone who can guide you. So there are people who come to me to ask me about TEFL. I have taught people for free. All right. I need to say this. I do not charge each and every person. There are times when I have given these courses online without expecting anything in return, simply because I've seen those people go through things that I went through and I wished someone were there for me back then.
Mm-hmm.
So when I see that happening, I want to be there. I want to help out. And I feel if you have the right kind of people, why not approach them, talk to them, and even if they charge you a minimal fee, do it. Today, if you go out for a meal, you will end up spending maybe three times the amount that you spend on a mentor.
It's not a
Listen,
joke.
yeah, it's true. So maybe two meals you eat at home or cook at home or just bloody skip. Okay, it won't kill you. Eat and take a course.
Invest in you, right? Invest in you. I think sometimes people, and I'm not trying to be mean when I say this, the facts are the facts, the truth is the truth. I'm speaking my truth just from my lived experience. Um, Sometimes there are situations where people will, oh, do something for like a temporary feel good to
Yeah,
then avoid the work, which the work is what they could actually do to
yeah,
sustainably feel better.
yeah,
And granted, now I want to be the first to say, Tariq, what do you I believe sometimes you got to give yourself grace. Let's be real here for a moment. And don't get me wrong, I'm the first one to tell you, you got to work hard, you got to be resilient, you got to move forward. I mean, my brand being we are vision of hope, and I'm your problem solving coach, and what it looks like to problem solve through different situations. But what it happens is I'm not going to neglect. There are times where you got to take a deep breath, you got to take a step back so you can take 5 steps forward.
absolutely. I think that's gold. Yes, that's gold. I love what you just said. I absolutely love what you just said. It is so important to understand that your life will not just be an upward trajectory. That's not possible.
Mm,
You can't just have a perfect graph moving up. That doesn't happen. There
yeah,
have to be fluctuations. There has to be a zigzag. And the more there is a zigzag on your graph, the more successful you're bound to be. Simply because if you do not make mistakes, you won't master them.
no, yep, yep.
So important to make mistakes. The
Yeah.
first talk I gave, when I go back to look at it, I laugh at myself. What was I thinking?
Excuse
Bless
me.
you. But had that talk not taken place, I would not have been here today.
Mm,
Today, I would have made the same mistakes that I made in my first talk. So it is so important to understand this. If you allow fear to just make you stay in your comfort zone, and I know it sounds really cliched, that get out of your comfort zone, do this, do that, blah, blah, blah. We've been hearing it everywhere, right? I
yeah.
mean, there's been an overdose of these words and these sentences. And but listen, get up. Just bloody get up. Get up and do something. Just
So,
do it. It's high time.
so one of my coaches, her name is Jen Gottlieb,
Mhm.
and
Oh, I
she
love her. I love her. She's my goddess. Oh God, I love her.
Maybe that's how we met each other. The algorithm does weird things. I had no idea that you knew who Jen Gottlieb was. Um, well, one of my coaches, Jen Gottlieb, she always talks about this. Start before you're ready.
Right.
Um, we've talked about a lot of different things, Swati, and I think that there's a lot of big takeaways that people can take away from this episode. And we even probably went a bit off script here, but I love it, and I think that it was really impactful for the audience. But I want to bring it back to I want to bring I want to bring everything together here for a moment. So we've talked about how you started, the difference between language and communication, that means to an end. We talked about the marriage. We talked about, communication and fear and working towards your goals and working towards your dreams to ultimately just have a life that you can feel power and understand where you came from feeling like you were less than to
Yeah.
understanding that you're living a life now where it seems like you don't settle. You know your worth. And I think that is amazing. And ultimately, that's my goal when I coach individuals, when I work with working professionals to be able to feel that power again, to overcome that burnout. That's what my coaching programs are all about. So as we
Right.
bring all of this together, I want to ask you, you touched on this briefly, and I I think I'd be remiss if I didn't take the conversation here before we end. As something as your career, it's so big, and as you continue to build a brand and how important all your work is to you. How has all of what we've talked about today, how has it affected your parenting?
Wow. Okay. Wow. That I wasn't expecting that.
I
All right. See, I'll tell you what. This is one point in my life where if you ask me, I feel a constant need to do better. Okay,
mm,
there's this constant need in me where I'm like, I can be a better mom and I want to be a better mom. And no matter how much you do for your child, it'll never be enough, no matter how much. And I'm not talking about spoiling her. I am extremely strict that way. But no matter how much you provide, no matter how much time you give, no matter what you do, there's always a part of you that will feel that, okay, maybe I can do this better. And I don't do that in a derogatory way. I'm not torturing myself with it, but I'm just trying to grow as a mom. And I'm really blessed. I actually feel extremely grateful that I have this child who is so emotionally mature for a 6 year old. It could be because of the experiences that she's had in her life very early on. And
mm.
she's the most understanding and loving child. Sometimes, there are times when I feel like I'm the daughter and she's the mom. Oh, yes, there are times when I come back from court and, there's this whole custody case going on, guardianship
Mm,
thing. I
yeah.
come back from court and I'm drained and I feel like I just want to die right now. And that's when she comes to me and she hugs me and she says, Mom, I'm here for you.
Wow.
And I just melt. And that is the reason why I tell you I have no wishes because I have everything that I could have ever wished for. So, yes, parenting skills, I don't know. I don't know how to measure these skills. I don't know where I stand, but I know that I'm the best mother my daughter can ever have. So, for her, it's me.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. There's so much there in what you just said, but I think there's so much to gain from everybody hearing you. And I think the two things to one, recognize that you have room to grow and continue to build and be the best every single day, to hearing a little bit about your daughter's journey, and then to hear, um, but you know that it's you. I think that's amazing. I think that's amazing. And I, once again, I'm having one of these speechless moments. Swati, you are a special one for sure.
I like to believe that.
Tell us, Swati, with people who want to connect more with you and be able to hear more about your content, what can people expect from you on social media, and how do people, if they want to work with you, or tell us a bit more about what it is that exactly that you deliver and how people can connect more of you? Where can we find you?
Okay, let me just put this in a more systematic way so that it's easy for everyone to understand.
Please.
There are two aspects to this. One is the financial aspect to it, what I do to earn money. And that is where I sell my courses. Okay. So these courses are business English, there is conversational English, there is basic English, there's advanced English. These are the kind of courses that I sell. Now, that also includes creative writing, how to express yourself, how to write a book, all kinds of stuff. Now, now comes an aspect that gives me a lot of happiness, satisfaction, where I want to collaborate with more people, and that is helping people out.
Mm,
The minute I feel that, okay, there is an organization that's helping people out to be better partners, to be better anything, any aspect at all, or feel I can add value to, count me in. So that is the space that I keep just for myself, where there are no financials involved. It's just me for you, you for me. And that's that. Talking about content, yes, I do a lot of English content. I do give a lot of tips on how to speak more fluently, how to sound more advanced, all of that. Yes, I will keep doing that for sure.
hmm
But now you can expect a lot more of how to evolve,
mm,
how to be an evolved human, how to
yes.
understand people more. So, yes, that is where I'm headed right now. And you guys can contact me on Instagram. My handle is Evolve with Swati. And you can also get in touch with me on my email ID, which I think we can share. I can share it on my Instagram. You can open my bio and check. Everything's on there, my phone number and all of it. So, yes, it's very easy to get in touch with me.
All right. Excellent. Excellent.